If you are new here, my name is Sammy Clark and I am an illustrator, and on my channel I share all kinds of art stuff, what I'm working on, and advice, vlogs, things like that. But today I wanted to teach you guys how to make a repeat pattern on Photoshop. So this tutorial will show you how to make a file that if you upload it to a company like Spoonflower, where they make fabric, which by the way, this is not sponsored, you can upload that one file and it will automatically repeat perfectly for you. So yeah, this doesn't take a whole lot of Photoshop knowledge, but I'm not really going to be explaining any of the tools. So just basically, if you have a basic understanding of Photoshop, you should be good to go. And the process should be pretty similar on Adobe Illustrator if you have that and not Photoshop. So anyway, I hope that you guys find this helpful, and let's get started. Okay guys, so here we are on Photoshop. I've made a document that's 22 by 22 inches square, and I'm going to make a 10 by 10 inch square to put in the center of it. Then you want to drag your guides out to the outer edges of your square or rectangle, whichever you choose to make. And just make sure that whether you put the guides on the outside or inside of the line, that you do it consistently around all four sides. Now, this is a pattern that I started to make before, but it's not an actual repeat, meaning that I can't put it repeated next to each other and it will line up. It won't line up. So I have my owl, which is isolated without a background. That's really important. You don't want to be copying your background into this. So if you have a PNG of your artwork, you can always just place that in here and then copy it to make the repeat. And I decided that I wanted mine to be staggered, kind of like a brick repeat, rather than on top of each other. I'm just going to continue this method all the way down. And I'm kind of trying to move it around and get an idea of position, but I'm realizing that it's too big. I need to make it a little bit smaller in order to get this repeat process to work, and you'll see what I mean in a minute. So you want to bring your guide to where your image intersects that outer guideline. And you want to try to be as exact as possible with that, because it does make a difference in the end result. Right now I'm taking the rectangular selection tool and I'm lining it up with the guide and selecting everything that overhangs that top guide. And at this point, I realized I needed to group those three owls, so the top row needed to be grouped, and now I need to merge them in order for them to be, in order for them to be editable. So I am dragging that selection down and lining it up with the guide on the left side and the guide at the bottom of the square, so that if we took all of these owls and repeated them, those wings would match up top to bottom. I'm going to continue the same method with the other parts that overhang the square. So here I'm putting the guide where it intersects with, where the wing intersects with the left outer rectangle guide. It's reminding me to merge the group, which I forgot. If you do this, you should just merge them all from the very beginning to avoid any confusion. It had been a while since I had done a repeat pattern when I filmed this, so I had forgotten about that aspect of it. So you just want to make sure you go through, you group everything, you merge everything, and then you'll have everything in order. And I'm just grouping those or merging the groups by right-clicking on the group and the layers. So now we're going to cut that little guy, that selection, and move it over to the opposite side and line up the same part of the wing with that horizontal guide I placed before. And it is helpful to zoom in as much as possible because it helps you to see if you've made any mistakes. And I just continue that for all of the remaining areas that are hanging outside of the square. And I also fill in some of the missing spots with owls, and I use my eyes to get them to be even, but in some cases if there's a guide down, I use the guide. And I do recommend just putting a guide so that you can line them up perfectly. Which is what I've decided to do here. And you'll see that my eyes were incorrect and I needed to lower him. Continuing to do the same thing for the other row. And of course, you could be filling these missing holes in before you do any of the cutting and moving around, but this is just the order that I did them in. So now we're going to do this corner overhang area, and this can get a little tricky. So just make sure that if you're going to do the side overhang, that you start at the corner, at the intersection of those guides, because you don't want to crop anything that's going to need to end up in the opposite corner. You just want to do the side piece. Dragging that over to the opposite side. And thankfully these guides really help you to be able to, it just like snaps it in into place when you drag it over. But it's always good to double check it too. I started to just use that same one to add to the pattern below, but I decided it'd be better to just cut it specifically from this owl because you never know if you're going to be a hair off and end up with a little empty space, a little empty line in between your patterns. So this is where I made sure that I lined it up. And actually, I'll show you later, I made a mistake there because I had moved that guide and I forgot about it, but I'll show you that later. I'm going to take the top part now and move that down to the bottom corner. And now we take this remaining corner piece, and that's going to be taken diagonally across to the bottom left-hand corner. And I did not delete those little legs hanging over on the right side, but it doesn't matter right now. You want to make sure that you save your pattern and save it as a Photoshop file so that you can easily go back in and edit something if you realize that you've made a mistake, which I actually did make a small mistake that you guys will see, so I'm really happy that I left it as something that I could edit. Going to use the crop tool to crop in just perfectly to the edge, not cutting any of the image off and not leaving any empty space. So I continue that for all the sides. And I save this as a Photoshop file. Well, I open up a new file first, and then I go back and I save this as a Photoshop file. So now I have a cropped version and the original version. I'm going to save it as a PNG also. So I take the Photoshop version of it in, the cropped version, and I copy it and I repeat it and I check the repeat to see if everything lines up. And you see I got those feet messed up there. So I actually had to go back in and raise those feet, but that was really easy because I still had the Photoshop version of the cropped file. But you'll see if I continue the repeat, it lines up nicely. There's no empty spaces. Except for those feet again. And I can just adjust. This is where I realized the feet, because now all the heads are off except for those feet. So I had to go back in and fix that, but I hope that you guys can find this to be useful. And basically, so if you're going to make something like fabric, where you can just upload a file and they automatically repeat it for you, somewhere like Spoonflower or maybe wallpaper on Society 6, you can just upload this cropped file with whatever background color you decide to add, and then it will automatically repeat it for you. You can see me going in now actually and fixing those feet. Easy enough when you still have the Photoshop file. Save it as something new, and you're good to go. Also, if you're working with a program or a website like Society 6 where you can upload a file for bedding and say you don't want your pattern to be huge on it, you want it to be more petite pattern repeat, you can do what I was doing before and make your file by repeating the owls manually and making them whatever size you want. So I hope you guys found this useful. If you see this pattern in my shop, you'll actually see that I ended up making the owls fly opposite directions every other row. I intended to do that from the beginning and completely forgot, but regardless, this video still will help you learn how to make a repeat pattern using Photoshop, and I hope it's useful for you guys. Okay guys, thanks so much for watching. If you are curious to shop any of my items I showed at the end of this video here with the pattern on it, the link is below to my Society 6 shop. You can find a lot of home decor and things there, and then in my personal shop I have those tote bags with the colored handles. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please give me a like and a thumbs up. Please give me a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed this and found it helpful, and also comment below if you'd like me to make more videos like this where I am teaching something. Yeah, so anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great day.